Great, thanks so much. First of all, welcome everyone. Most importantly, I hope everyone is doing well and staying healthy and safe. We're happy you're able to join us here today for this session. My name is Craig Hagland. I'm with EPA's Energy Star Buildings program. I lead our work with commercial real estate and multifamily sectors. Today's topic is, I think, a very important one, and could also say sort of timely with everything going on these days in a way. We're here to hear from three presenters to discuss sort of effective strategies when it comes to setting performance goals, either at your organization or at your properties. And there's really quite a bit that needs to be taken into consideration when going through that process. Certainly it's a big milestone to get the support to establish performance targets in the first place, but a lot of questions then arise on what types of goals to set, whether they're sort of energy focused initially, or you're looking at greenhouse gas emissions, or even water waste diversion rates, things like that, where to set those goals, and how to monitor and track and adjust as time goes on. So I imagine there are a lot of internal discussions these days on how operations have been affected by COVID and what those effects have on overall objectives. So certainly having a well thought out strategy and process is sort of crucial to how an organization goes on about improvement. So without further ado, I'd like to introduce our three speakers today who have a wealth of experience in this area in setting performance targets at their respective firms. We have Ben Myers, who's the VP of Sustainability at Boston Properties. It's a publicly traded developer, owner, and manager of Class A properties in the U.S., office properties in the U.S. Ben has several responsibilities, including overseeing ESG strategy and implementation, enterprise energy and water management, green building initiatives, among many others. We also have Jessica Loper, who is a VP at Verdani Partners, which is a full-service sustainability consulting firm where she manages sustainable programs, corporate ESG management, and engineering services for real estate portfolios. She is also the Director of Sustainability for Commonwealth Partners, which is a real estate investment development and management organization for Class A properties in the U.S. And then last but not least, we have Jim Suter, is VP of Engineering at Hudson Pacific Properties, which is an LA-based real estate investment trust focusing on owning, operating, and developing office and studio properties along the West Coast. In his role, he oversees the company's engineering operations throughout the portfolio. It's of course my pleasure also to note that these organizations are all Energy Star Partner of the Year and Sustained Excellence Award winners, which is our most prestigious award in the Energy Star program here. So congrats to all of you all again for your continued success, and thanks for your great partnership and involvement with the program and participating and offering your time for today's webinar. So with that, I will pass it over to Ben, who will get us started.
Thanks, Craig. I just want to thank EPA, Energy Star, the whole program for moving forward with this presentation. I'm very excited to be here to share our experience as a public equity REIT with 50 million square feet of commercial office properties, primarily in Boston, New York, San Francisco, DC, and Los Angeles. When the EPA Energy Star Partner of the Year event was canceled in April, I felt cheated. I felt like, man, I'm not going to get to connect with so many of my peers and colleagues, but it's just been amazing through WebEx and all these tools we're using, the amount of collaboration that's ongoing on energy efficiency. And I just want to share a little bit of our story here today on the art and science of setting effective energy performance goals, because it is both an art and a science. And I'll explain what I mean by that as we move through the deck. So we're an owner, manager, and developer of Class A office spaces. These are some of the buildings we've developed that we own and manage today. We're a long-term owner, so we take a long-term hold position. It means that we're looking at first costs as much as operating costs, and we're invested over the long term in building operational performance in our communities. So these are some of our properties in New York City, in Waltham, Massachusetts, a suburb outside of Boston, Atlantic Wharf in Boston. This was Boston's first green skyscraper, and 535 Mission in San Francisco, which sits next to its bigger sister, Salesforce Tower, which some of you may know, and 601 Massachusetts Avenue in Washington, D.C. Some of the buildings we've been developing most recently are some of the greenest in the United States: 888 Boylston Street in Boston, Massachusetts, Salesforce Tower, which I mentioned in San Francisco, and a project that's moving forward now at 4th and Harrison in San Francisco that'll be the first net zero development for the company. We form our approach to sustainability and ESG issues through the materiality assessment, and the assessment process includes surveying our stakeholders, our customers, our shareholders, the communities we serve, and our own employees. And routinely, carbon emissions and energy consumption and efficiency rank among the highest in importance to our stakeholders and the impact on our business. So this is our updated materiality assessment from 2019, and you'll see that number 4, carbon emissions, and number 5, energy consumption and efficiency, are at the very top of the list for what matters to our stakeholders. So as we form our strategy, we use the sustainability framework of climate action, resilience, and social good to execute initiatives and prioritize resources across the company. On the climate action front, energy and water efficiency are the most important aspect of our action and our activity on climate. So everything we talk about today is really related to energy efficiency in particular. We've been recognized as an ESG leader, and the reason I mention this is because our goals have really played a foundational part in creating our stance as a leader. By setting goals, you set a uniform direction for the company, a target, you signal to your stakeholders that it's important for your organization. You also save operating costs, and I'll explain how that all works in a little bit. So LEED, over 24 million square feet, 95% of which are certified at the highest gold and platinum levels. And then we have 40 Energy Star properties today, down a little bit from 18 due to the CBEX update, but we're still persevering. We were 2020 Energy Star Partner of the Year. A few other awards here from the Institute for Market Transformation and DOE, the Green Lease Leader Award, from NAREIT, our member association, Fitwell. And in GRES, the Global Real Estate Sustainability Benchmark Assessment, we've made consistent progress dating back to 2012 in our GRES 5-star company, ranking among the top 4% of all global companies in the GRES survey. My philosophy as a leader of our sustainability program is that when there's a scoreboard, people play differently. So we keep a lot of scoreboards to measure, manage, and disclose performance. And goal setting came after the measurement and the management and the disclosure. So first, I think you need the tools to collect energy data. We view real-time performance monitoring as a fundamental aspect of our energy management practice. So we have over 250 commodity meters where we monitor energy performance in real time, and our engineers are using that data to operate our properties. We use frameworks like Portfolio Manager, which is our book of record, to capture data and disclose to GRES. We also believe that USGBC and the LEED framework provides an important tool for our development teams and the consultants that work for us as we move through design development to make sure we're developing and placing in service product that supports our sustainability goals. And finally, analysis, reporting, and disclosure. Working with companies like Measurable, using the Global Reporting Initiative GRI framework for all of our annual disclosures. SASB, which we've integrated, and we include SASB disclosures in our 10K filing. We were one of the first companies to do that of the commercial REITs. And then TCFD beginning to adopt the Task Force for Climate-Related Financial Disclosures into our public filings. Goals. That's what we're here to talk about today. The top goal is a 32% energy intensity reduction below a 2008 base year by 2025. So by 2025, cut energy use intensity 32% below 08. And we've achieved 27% of that reduction so far. We've also cut our carbon emissions below 2008 70%. And that is due to the 27% energy use intensity reduction combined with green power procurement. Our most recent procurement cut our year-over-year like-for-like carbon intensity 52%. So from 2018 to 2019, we cut our carbon emissions for Scope 1 and Scope 2 52%. The art and science of setting energy goals. We talked about how it's an art and it's a science. I want to contrast a round one and a round two. We set 2 energy performance goals. We hit our first one early, and then we reset the 32% goal I just mentioned. The first round was kind of like duck hunt. You know, I'm thinking back to like the late 80s, playing duck hunt. It was probably early 90s more for me, but late 80s is when a lot of people were playing duck hunt. And you look where the duck was coming from out of the grass. You try to gauge where it was going, and you lead it a little bit, and you point and shoot. And that's what round one goal setting looked like for us. Round two was more like advanced calculus. So I'll explain a little bit of the methodology of each and how one was more of an art and one was more of a science. So the art round one was around 2014. We created a benchmark year. So we looked at 2008. We gathered all of our energy performance data. We measured intensities from 2008 through 2014, which was that current year, and looking at 2-year intervals, and then projected a straight line through 2020, establishing a 15% reduction by 2020 goal. We achieved the goal in 16, so we didn't have that goal for very long. We achieved it 3 years early, recording a 19.8% reduction below a 2008 base. So we set a goal that we believed was a target. It was aspirational, but we didn't set a goal that we thought we couldn't hit. We wanted to make sure we hit our goals. As a publicly traded firm, when you make a statement about a goal, it's very important that you execute on that goal, and we did 3 years early. It looks something like this, a little sketch I made in PowerPoint. Site energy intensities, right? On the y-axis, on the x-axis, we have time. 08, 14, out to 20, pretty straightforward. Wasn't very sophisticated. Round two, we approached it as more of a science. We learned a lot from setting our goals for the first time in 2014. And so I developed with some others a probabilistic model using best case percent reduction estimates for common energy conservation measures and asset improvement potential. So I'll unpack that a little bit. We have this 32% reduction target, which I mentioned, going to a site energy use intensity of 69.6 below a site energy use intensity of 94.9 in 2008. We looked at 3 common modes of reducing energy, so you call them common energy conservation measures. One is operating intensity reduction, and this is done through energy intelligence software, real-time monitoring, and advisory services from a third party. We're currently working with Hatch. They are a company that spun out of NLX, and before that, Enernoc. So we've done real-time monitoring for a while, and we believe that year over year we can get about a 0.5% improvement in energy efficiency by tuning our buildings, early starts, early stops, optimal starts and stops, setting back on holidays, weekends, and making sure that we don't have any unusual or abnormal intensities through the day. And then the second piece was lighting intensities. So we needed to model our current lighting in buildings, the turnover of spaces, energy conservation measures that were planned, lighting retrofits, and the reduction in watts per square foot that would result from lighting improvement projects. So we looked at energy models that we were creating on new developments. We looked at ASHRAE level 2 audits we had done of existing facilities, determined the overall percentage of building energy that was related to lighting, determined average lighting power densities and the lighting lamping in buildings, and what percent improvement we could get by relamping on average over whole building energy intensity, and it came up to about 9.2%. The 10.2% is HVAC and controls intensity reduction, and this comes from fans, drives, controls, motor improvements, everything one does to improve the MEP systems. And there we thought in a best case scenario, we could reduce HVAC and related energy 10.2% in buildings where we hadn't made investments or there was large potential. So I've included a row of the table. I'm not sure if it reads very well on your screens, but this is what's at the bottom, and this is how we set up the model. So here we have a building. I've redacted the name to protect the innocent, but we have the years Energy Star certified. We have, this building has done quite well with Energy Star certifications. A score of 88. It's probably from the square footage, you might be able to figure out what building it is. 2017 EUI was 78.5. 2013 EUI was 84.3. So the reduction rate over 4 years compounded was 1.8%. And we set a probability of, you could set a probability of 0, probability of 0.1, probability of 0.9, probability of 1 if you think you're going to get that reduction. But we had to set some probabilities. Like, what's the probability that we're going to get a 2.5% operating intensity reduction in this building using real-time data? So we thought it was about 50%. What's the probability we can reduce lighting 9.2%? Again, 50%. And there's not a lot of lighting turning over in this space. We've got, one lighting retrofit plan, maybe another one will get approved. There's some uncertainty there. And then on the HVAC side, we had an inefficient HVAC system, an old chiller that we knew was going to be upgraded. So we thought there was a fairly high probability, 60% chance that we get a 10.2% reduction in overall energy use in this building. For a total reduction potential below a 2017 base of 12%, the going forward reduction over 5 years compounded was about 2.5%, for a 22 intensity estimate of 69.1. So from a 2017 EUI of 78.5, we thought we could get this building down to 69.1 after King's Estimate. And we did this for over 100 assets across our portfolio. So that was a more scientific method. If I'm going to, just some words of advice for anybody who's looking at this for the first time. The success drivers, these are the things you need to do. You need to have detailed historical energy performance information. An EPA portfolio manager has been so important for us as a tool. We started tracking data using Portfolio Manager in 2006. Without that book of record, without that data set, I wouldn't have gotten off the start line in 2014. Strong partnerships with operations, property management, engineering. You really need to be a bit of a diplomat. You need to build trust and work with operations folks. We own, manage, and develop assets, so we have great coordination between our engineers and our property managers, asset managers, and our corporate services team, of which I'm a member. So I think that really matters, to have those relationships and the operational control. You need buy-in from senior leadership. Energy performance, carbon emissions have become a purpose of Boston Properties. So our senior leaders are very much engaged in energy goal setting. Now, I got a lot of eye rolls when I brought goal setting to them. I won't lie. A lot of people want to know what this was, what's the risk. There were a lot of very, very critical questions. These are all highly intelligent people. But building the buy-in with them, there were many memos, many detailed reports, lots of analysis, and they're analytical people, they're rational people. So making the case and getting their buy-in is absolutely essential. Setting goals the second time was a piece of cake. First time was very challenging. Stakeholder support. So I mentioned our materiality assessment, the importance of goals to our stakeholders. Build stakeholder support, get involved with your teams that are talking to your customers, talk to investors, talk to partners. Make sure you understand what your stakeholders want and try to get stakeholders to advocate for the company to have goals. Don't be the only one in the room saying we need goals. Then build a strong business case. And I'll show you what our business case has been. And finally, persist. Last slide. This is the result of goal setting, in my view. Energy and carbon performance, the 70% carbon intensity reduction below 2008, and the 27% site EUI reduction below 2008. We were able to set a science-based target and had it approved by the Science-Based Target Initiative at the most ambitious level, showing that our rate of reduction in carbon emissions was equal to the rate necessary to keep global temperature rise below 1.5 degrees Celsius. And then finally, the result of our energy conservation work is $31 million in avoided energy operating costs every year. So this is good this is good for the bottom line. It's good for our investors. It's good for our stakeholders. And it's good for the business. So you need to make that business case, and energy conservation is a very important method of controlling operating costs. I'm going to hand it back, and there'll be time for Q&A. I'll be happy to answer any questions you may have.
Oh, I think we're going to do a full Q&A session at the end of the presentation, so we'll collect any questions throughout Ben's presentation and ask them at the end. But thanks so much for that great presentation. I'm going to go ahead and pull up our next presenter's slides. Let me go ahead and do that. All right, and then I'll go ahead and hand the ball over to Jessica. Let's see.
Excellent.
There we go.
Thanks. I am Jessica Loper. I operate as a Director of Sustainability for Commonwealth Partners since 2014 as a contractor through Verdani Partners, which is my parent firm, and that provides portfolio-wide ESG programs. Today, I'll go into CWP's portfolio, which is a privately owned real estate development management organization and owns Class A multi-tenant office towers throughout major metropolitan areas. Totals over 10 million square feet and around 27,000 people come to work each day. And we've had sustainability programs for a while, but we utilized a 2013 baseline for establishing corporate-specific sustainability programs, and we're proud of the steady improvement year over year in our efficiency measures and tenant engagement programs at our environmental and social level. And we've been able to, over these last 6 years, achieve a variety of accolades each year based on those particular actions I'll go into. Most notably, we achieved our first rank for GRESB in our office peer review, 100% LEED certification, and an average of 84 score for Energy Star across the portfolio. And I don't know if you can see this. It's a little bit bigger, but the bar below basically goes over the various reporting programs that we'll focus on later. So during this presentation, I'd like to focus on energy and emissions, and I'd like to break it down into 4 steps. And the first step is making a goal. So you can see here we have a goal to reduce energy and emissions and water by 20% by 2020, and then a 50% by 2030 for the science-based targets using a 2013 goal. We then added our also a 2030 goal for increasing renewable energy by 75%. But you need to find a pathway. So how do you get to go and move that needle forward? And so when you find your pathway, I'm providing 2 parts here. First is your local jurisdictions. There's specific requirements you have to follow, and so just by following those, you're starting to show data tracking. And then the second one is the nationally recognized reporting programs that assist with strategies on performing better. So utilizing those different strategies are going to help with creating a better, robust program. But when we look at the mass amount of programs out there and trying to understand where our emissions come from, and it may seem daunting and overwhelming, and this is where I really like to just take a step back and see what we can control based on the limitations we have. So when there are frequent acquisition and disposition of buildings, our long-term goals may be altered, and the baselines near properties may be sold, for instance. And if a tenant suddenly hires more employees, inevitably more computers will be plugged in, among other things, and the tenant internal practices obviously cannot be controlled by the landlord. And then The other area is if you only have one regional utility power source, it's pretty difficult to make a change if there's no option to change. So when we think about property owner that does not pay for the utilities for their tenants, how can we encourage them to reduce energy? If we do have whole building data and can determine where the utility is coming from, there's control in that. For transportation, we may not be able to tell tenants how to get to work, but there's incentives like bike lockers and showers and EV charging stations we could provide. And for waste, a lot of emissions are generated when taken off site, so we can strategize how to reduce overall waste and maybe provide composting on the sites. And then finally, we can come up with a greenhouse gas inventory management plan, which is sort of like a roadmap. So we started out working with the Department of Energy's Better Building Alliance back in 2013 to set our key targets. And we're happy to see that steady 3% increase towards our goals each year. So once we have a goal, we need to track it. And so there's a feature we utilize in Energy Star. It's setting the goal within the dashboard. And this is something that anyone can do. It's an easy thing to go into. And once you hit on that Goals tab, you'll see a baseline and target section. And you can note here that although we do actually track our water and waste in Energy Star, the feature for setting a target right now is only available for energy. So on this slide, I'm giving you two examples to see when we set our 2013 20% reduction target. It shows the greenhouse gas emissions in 2013, the total we're aiming for it to be, and then where we're at currently, which is then where we can hone in on which property to focus our energy efficiency measures a little bit more. Part of the implementation that we've managed to keep consistent on an annual basis is the use of the LEED recertification for our existing buildings through ARC. Here you can evaluate our emission property by property. It can be rolled out on a portfolio level to analyze all scope 1 and 2 and part of 3, which is coming from the transportation survey. And you can see, take note in that dark color is the transportation. So if it's not showing there, it means it's been over 12 months since our last survey. But by looking at ARC's simple breakdown here of TWP's data, we can see the clear winner in which scope to focus on our scope 2, which would be scope 2 electricity. So from here, we analyze the existing utility company's power mix. Where does the whole building electricity come from? And then from there, we began evaluating what alternative energy options are out there through the utility and beyond. So this part is going to take time and a variety of steps. So as of 2019, through our utility green power programs, some RECs, and existing power mix, we're at a 63% renewable energy or electricity, which is pretty cool and definitely on our way towards our goals. And then going back to Energy Star, we can include our green power usage by clicking on that little green power button. We enter the power mix breakdown and the location where the power was generated to ensure accuracy in our avoided emissions, and this will count towards our reduction goals. Another area been mentioned as well is we've been utilizing the UN Sustainable Development Goals. There's 17 of them, and what I'm displaying here is only focused on the emissions portion. And within real estate, some of the goals provided may not seem entirely obvious at first, but as you review it, it provides strategic guidance on helping organizations push for goals, various goals even further, maybe that you didn't think of previously. I think it's pretty neat. I'd encourage others just to go onto their website and think about what kind of goals you could set. It's free, it's nothing, there's no issue with it. But then the next part that we've done adding to our story would be the science-based targets. So in 2018, we decided to pursue it. And this is where you can get even deeper with the determining emissions when analyzing the 3 different scopes. And just to break down, science-based targets are goals set by companies across all sectors to reduce their greenhouse gas emissions in a manner that keeps global temperature increases under 2 degrees. We went through the application process, took about 1.5 years to complete. We started in the spring of 2018 and was awarded in the summer of 2019. So scope 1 is your emissions, 2 is your electricity, and 3 is everything else. And you essentially have to go through a process to evaluate and track what you can calculate. So this process is kind of long. There's 15 different categories to see here. So if you're thinking about doing this type of deeper dive, there's 4 steps in this process. You create your commitment letter, you download it from the website, you review the Greenhouse Gas Protocol corporate standard to ensure your target covers company-wide scope 1 and 2 emissions. You establish a time frame and target needs to be at least 5 years from now and up to 15 years from the date of your announcement. The target needs to be consistent with global temperatures, increased to be below 2 degrees, and then the scope 3, you have to go through that process. If the initial calculations show that you're over 40% of your overall is in the scope 3 emissions, you need to include it and start reporting on it annually through a reporting program like CDP. And then when you develop a target, once you've committed, you're allowed up to 24 months to develop and submit your target for validation. And this part definitely takes a lot of back and forth with the SBT team. You'll be creating a GHG inventory management plan, emissions checklist, and SDA tool. And you can do your calculations through the Quantus tool, scope 3. Then you submit your target. You'll be continuing with the SBT team, possibly multiple iterations of your targets to really hone in on what makes the most sense. And then you submit these various forms and include the tool. And then you announce your target once you've been selected. And right now, as of 2019, we're about 77% towards reaching our 2030 goal. And this is kind of where the fun portion begins. But back to our kind of implementation programs. Now, step 3 is, that we've created these goals, we need to implement them. And as part of our stakeholder engagement programs, we educate through presentations, lobby events, we create various tenant programs we can implement. We typically stick with certain events and challenges during the same time every year, providing a calendar of events at the beginning of each year, and then followed by signage and memos associated that I send out to the property managers for them to send out to their tenants. And we provide a stack of tenant resources to help tenants make smart decisions when it comes to tenant improvements. Part of our green leasing language is to ensure they perform efficiency best practices, and circling back to our green tenant guides that provide guidance on how to improve. And then finally, our 4th goal is to communicate the results. So throughout the previous slides, I've mentioned several different scenarios when determining emissions. So here's how we communicate at the properties. And it's 1, by hosting bike to work events, which typically occur in May. This year it's pushed back to September. We'll see how that shakes out. But other communication ideas are energy stat posters we've done in the lobbies to help tenants get a better sense of how much building savings mean when we stack them next to an equivalency, like this is equivalent to powering a home or a number of cars on the road. We've gotten really good feedback on that poster. We also have sustainable leasing flyers, and that's kind of a snapshot for incoming and existing tenants to understand where CWP's priorities are at. So we share kind of portfolio-wide and property-specific stats in these They're located on the tenant websites and the sustainability tab for each property. I'm pretty happy about those. And then elevator signage, I think, is definitely your friend. Or a lobby screen or an A-frame sign, even anything that's, within a lobby of people walking by. But if you're lucky enough to have an elevator screen, this allows for a captivated audience for seconds at a time. So we try to provide very clear, this is a LEED Platinum or Energy Star building, as a quick understanding that we are stating it's important to us, to the tenants. And the more detailed imagery is only used during those lobby events. But the point of this is to really just demonstrate how CWP is not only has ingrained sustainability in their internal practices, but they've partnered with third-party organizations to gain recognition and achieve certifications and better communicate our commitments. So in summary, I'd say here when we're trying to figure out where to start is maybe just take one of your buildings through a certification program and learn what can be done at that building level. Then you can build from there towards a high performance portfolio. Hopefully that was helpful in a strategic way. And I'll pass the ball back to the Energy Star team.
All right, thanks so much, Jessica. I'm going to go ahead and pull up Jim's slides. All right, over to you, Jim.
Thank you. Hello, everybody. Jim Suter here with Hudson Pacific Properties. We are sorry, I have to advance my slide here. We are a West Coast REIT. We focus on media and tech companies. We're a little unusual. We have Class A office, but we also own 3 movie studios in Hollywood, which brings different strategies into play. And you can see our top tenants here: Google, Netflix, Uber Square, Qualcomm, Salesforce. So 2019 was a key year for us, and I can highlight some of the things here. But prior to 2019, I was the head of engineering, and I also headed up our sustainability program, kind of on a part-time basis. And so I'll go through these highlights. Last year, the big thing was we expanded our benchmarking. We had 100% data coverage, which was pretty tough for us to accomplish, given that we've got about, between retail and pure triple net tenants, we have about 15%, of our square footage. So it's difficult to get that information out. Google, the tenant I listed, if you have them, often their energy data is top secret, and so it was really tough to get that out of them. But that was a huge win for us to have 100% data coverage. The second thing we did was we invested in renewable energy certificates or credits for our entire portfolio, starting in 2019, and we have a contract for 3 years. And that is to cover our Scope 2 emissions. This year we're looking at focusing on our Scope 1 emissions. Number 3 here is probably the most important event that happened. We've strengthened our internal leadership. So we've hired a full-time VP of Sustainability and Social Impact, Natalie Tier, a lot of you folks probably know. And then we also hired a Senior Director of Engineering and Environmental Sustainability, Ryan Tinnis. And Ryan works for me, so he is kind of doing the E of ESG for the firm. But that was huge, having full-time people dedicated to our ESG program. The fourth thing, we've enhanced our internal management or engagement. We've had a recognition program for a number of years. We've kind of spiced it up a little bit. Every property has a property-specific sustainability action plan, which includes Energy Star goals and energy reduction goals. And we've also expanded our training to the teams and encouraged, joining webinars like this one. And then lastly, on our highlights for 19, we really pushed our communications both internally and externally. We have a dedicated website, or spot on our website, excuse me. In 2019, we issued our first CSR report for 2018. We increased our social media campaigns, expanded our disclosure in our proxy letter, incorporated Energy Star into our digital directories, and Captivate where we're available. And then and we've focused on participating in speaking events like this. Both myself and Natalie and Ryan have all participated in various speaking panelist type events. So I just wanted to highlight here that our kind of 2019 key performance metrics, and Ben, pointed out, the art and the science. I think we're starting to move into that science program, where our initial targets we set in 2017 using 2016 as a baseline, and we kind of blew them away, similar to what Ben had highlighted. So I won't regurgitate all of this information here, but we are now starting to leverage the tools that we saw earlier in Energy Star to start setting some more probabilistic type of goals. So how do we get there? How do we improve our energy efficiency and our Energy Star scores? It's through these 6 steps. Make a commitment, assess the performance, set goals, create and implement the action plan, evaluate progress, and then recognize the achievements that the teams have made. So by making a commitment, Hudson, we strengthen our commitment we have a board level sustainability committee now. We have both cross-functional, cross-regional sustainability groups. We have an E type of environmental sustainability group, but we've also got a social group, and then at the corporate level, we have a governance team. We updated our policies. We have tied some very important sustainability metrics to executive compensation. We have participated in the Green Lease program, and then the company has an app that we've pushed out to all the properties for all of our tenants to use, and there's a dedicated tab on sustainability there, as well as our other ESG type of initiatives. Like we have bike sharing and buses and things like that get people to and from train stations and so forth. So all of that is on our app. Next step here is assess performance. So we use a number of tools, and we use Gobi to collect a lot of our data. We use Mach Energy to do some of our real-time and day-behind monitoring and response, and we also partner with a firm, Energy Profiles Limited, up in Vancouver. In 2019, we also bought a portfolio in Vancouver, and they use Energy Star as well, and so there's a great marriage. Obviously, we use Energy Star as our key tool here to monitor all this, and we have energy, water, waste all in Energy Star, and as I've mentioned a couple times, with 100% coverage. And then the last way we assess the performance is through tenant engagement surveys, where there's a number of ESG type questions in there that the tenants have an opportunity to weigh in on. Next step would be to set the goals, right? So we reset everything because we had blown past our original goals that we set in 17 with a 16 base year, and to achieve by 2025, and we achieved them by 2018. So we reset the goals here, I think the key ones are by 2025, we want to be net carbon in our operations, net zero waste, reduce our energy like for like here by 10% and our water by 5%. I'll be honest with you, the energy piece is the easy part of this. California water is precious, but we also have a lot of suburban office with a lot of grass. And so strategies to reduce that are somewhat limited. And so, we're doing things to address that. And the waste is also difficult, that reduction and diversion. The next step is creating and implementing, an action plan where, long-term strategies need to come in play here. And so we have, in our capital planning tool, we have a specific ESG tool, or excuse me, a category that we assign, to ESG-related projects. We look obviously at paybacks and such, but it's a really quick way for us to budget for this and drive those projects, and then we can report on them relatively easily. And then we have a huge focus on LEED where possible, and then where LEED, EBOM will drive projects that drive energy performance. We'll certainly employ those. We are constantly exploring innovative technologies. We like to call it prop tech. The senior director I mentioned earlier, Ryan, that's one of his key focuses, is focusing on property technology and how it can, obviously reduce energy or benefit our whole ESG strategy in a whole. We do a lot of retrofits. Our average building age is about 32 years old, and so you've got a lot of older chillers. Some that may have already been replaced. They're not at their end of the useful life, but there's a VFD retrofit or something that we can, do that retrofit and enjoy the energy reduction that comes with it. We have a large engineering team and a large property management team, and so we try to share our best practices from Canada to LA. We used to host a lot of in-person meetings. Obviously, a lot of them are via Zoom now, but trying to get those best practices across all the different properties is helpful. And then, we do a lot of energy audits, whether they're by LEED or they're required as a compliance with many of the municipal green ordinances, or just when we're trying to find opportunities to deploy some capital to, reduce our energy footprint. And the last, second to last year, we wanted to talk about what tools we use to evaluate the process. So obviously we use Energy Star, Gobi, the internal engineering team who, focuses on their portfolios, but also we do some peer reviews. As I mentioned earlier, we leverage Mach Energy to do some real-time monitoring. The company has an operational audit that we audit about 100 separate items, much of which is regulatory required type of information, permits and so forth. But we also have energy goals in there, what we review, the capital strategies, the operational strategies for the building. And then lastly, I mentioned the tenant engagement surveys earlier. And so the final step here is to recognize these achievements For the teams, we have this program we put together a number of years ago. I call it the Biggest Loser program. I did a webinar last fall on this, where we have these categories: best improvement in Energy Star score, best tenant engagement story, biggest loser in energy, water, and the largest waste diversion teams. And so these are kind of self-nominated teams. The ESG team, the committee will vote on the winners. We host a lunch, and there's a little, cash and prizes given out, but it's the recognition that people love the most, and that has been a huge engagement success story to keep people focused on this. And then the building engineers who are driving the energy reduction stuff, we have, end of the year bonuses that we give out, and part of the metric of that is their building specific energy reduction goals. I just wanted to finalize my little presentation here with Natalie, our VP of Sustainability, has done just an awesome job of grounding this whole ESG program and branding it with this better blueprint platform. We just launched it. This is our new framework, and we're trying to balance, the sustainability, the E piece with the S and the G, and so you got, the sustainability piece here, but you also have, the healthy buildings, the design and the operation, the IQ monitoring, things like that we're now focused on, and then the equitable piece, whether that's one of our big focuses is focusing on homeless and what we can do in the markets that we're at. So that's all I have. Thank you.
All right, thanks so much, Jim. I'm going to go ahead and take back the presenter role really quick just to go over some of our upcoming webinars. So you can see here we have some webinars coming up in the next couple of months, and if any of these titles seem to interest you, feel free to register for them at esbuildings.webex.com. The link is at the bottom of the slide, and a copy of these slides will be sent out to all the registrants, so you'll be able to access this link as well. All right, so moving into our Q&A session, I'm going to reintroduce Craig to get into the Q&A session and ask our presenters some questions.